Welcome to our first ever podcast for Big Blue Nation Sports. I am David Jarvis, and I am the owner, editor, and a writer for BigBlueNationSports.com. I am also a KYSportsConnection.com contributor. And welcome to my humble abode, my basement here in Fayetteville, Georgia. What I'm going to start doing is these weekly podcasts to discuss the upcoming game and slate of games for the weekend. So we're going to make some picks, and we're going to talk some Kentucky football. So stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoy. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at BBN Sports KSC DJ, and I love interacting with you guys. So tweet me there, leave a comment. I will respond. Let's get started with some negative news for Kentucky. Unfortunately, 4 players will be suspended for the game Saturday against South Carolina. The 4 players were found in connection with guns going off on South Campus, and campus police issued a lockdown because of the incident. Later found video footage of Dorian Baker, Stanley Boom Williams, Drew Barker, and Tymer DeBose leaving the scene shortly after the reports were filed. So a disappointing decision by these guys. I guess they were, playing around with the 3 BB guns and an airsoft gun, and that's what was found by police. So playing around with those on campus, issued the lockdown. They're going to be suspended for this game, and probably more since they were just recently, just in the last couple of hours, issued criminal charges for disorderly conduct in the 2nd degree. So be anxious to see how Mark Stoops responds. DeBose and Parker were expected to redshirt, so not a huge loss there for this particular game. However, Stanley Boom Williams and Dorian Baker are huge contributors on the offensive end. Dorian Baker being a receiver with around 11 catches for about $171 and a touchdown. He's also a big part of the running game as a run blocker. He loves blocking on the outside and pinching down those linebackers and blocking those smaller defensive backs. So that's a big loss for Kentucky there. Stanley Williams has been a home run hitter this year. He's got a 53-yard touchdown run against Ohio. He had a 25-yard touchdown catch against Florida in the first overtime, in which he came out of the backfield, caught the ball going to the right, ran out of real estate and a wall of Florida defenders, turned it around, cut it all the way back across the field and around the left end and into the end zone for a touchdown. So it was a play that sort of embodied what Kentucky has not had in a very, very long time, and probably since 2007. So that kind of speed and that kind of athleticism, Kentucky is definitely going to miss. And Dorian Baker being 6'4", 195, you're going to miss that size at receiver as far as jump balls are concerned if we get into those type of situations. So a big loss for the Kentucky offense there. So moving on, let's talk about this slate of games. And this is actually a week of games I am really, really, really excited about. Just anxious to sit down on the couch around 11:30, finish up college game day, and order a pizza and have a case of beer and just enjoy football all day long. Be looking at, starting tonight actually, Arizona's traveling to Oregon to take on the number 2 Ducks. They're a 24-point dog. I do think Arizona covers that 24 points, but I think Oregon still blows them out, 55-38. Moving on to Saturday's games, we've got Florida traveling to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. I think Florida's had some issues moving the ball on offense and scoring points, and I think that their secondary was exposed against Kentucky a couple of weeks ago when Patrick Towles threw for over 350 yards. I think Justin Worley can do about the same thing. He's got some really good receivers with him for the Tennessee offense. And the Tennessee defensive line is really good. So I think they're going to pressure Jeff Driscoll, put some pinches in on that running game, and I think Tennessee escapes with a 24-17 win at home over the Florida Gators. Moving on to a big matchup in the SEC West, and this is a big Saturday for the SEC West. You got Texas A&M traveling to take on Mississippi State. Mississippi State is currently a 3-point favorite, so I am actually taking Texas A&M plus the 3 points. I'm taking Texas A&M to win outright 37-34 in Starkville. The next game is at 3:30. It's on ESPNU, NC State at Clemson. and I think Clemson is way overrated to be a 15-point favorite. So I'm taking NC State plus the 15, and I'm taking NC State and Jacoby Brissett to get the upset at Clemson, 28-24. The next 3:30 game is going to be Oklahoma-TCU. Oklahoma is a 6-point favorite, and I think Oklahoma gets the win on the road, 31-24, covering the 6 points with a 7-point victory. The next game is on NBC at 3:30. You can guess who it is, with it being NBC. That's right, it's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish playing host to the Stanford Cardinal. Stanford is actually a 2-point favorite going into this one. I think that Everett Goldson and Notre Dame cover that 2 points and get the victory, 31-21. The last 3:30 matchup of the day is another big SEC West matchup. It's going to be Alabama at Ole Miss in Oxford. So Alabama travels there. They are a 7-point favorite. Last year was a 41-0 drubbing, if I recall correctly, that Alabama put on Ole Miss after Ole Miss quarterback Bo Wallace came out and said they were going to beat Alabama, giving them some bulletin board material. And Alabama took it to heart and put a pounding on them. But I don't think that happens this year in Oxford. I think that Bo Wallace keeps his mouth shut, and I think he plays a pretty good game. But the Crimson Tide still pull it out at the end, 31-28. But Ole Miss still covers that 7-point spread. The next game is at 7 o'clock. Is a big matchup, another big one in the SEC West. LSU travels to Auburn. Auburn, I think, has too much firepower for LSU to keep up. LSU has had some question marks at quarterback this year and has had some issues scoring some points. So I think Auburn covers the 7-point spread and wins this one 38-24. The last game to discuss before we get to South Carolina, Kentucky is Nebraska at Michigan State. I think Nebraska covers the 8-point spread but loses to Michigan State 35-31. So now let's talk about South Carolina at Kentucky. The Gamecocks traveled to Lexington. Quarterback Dylan Thompson and running back Mike Davis and Brennan Wilds and Pharaoh Cooper, wide receiver, have the potential to put up a lot of points. So the Kentucky defense has got to play a solid, disciplined game. The front seven for Kentucky needs to stop the runs between the tackles where they have continually gotten gutted this year. And with that, they also need to put pressure on Dylan Thompson. The Kentucky secondary also needs to stay disciplined and stay on the receivers. South Carolina has had success throwing the ball over the top against Kentucky in some play-action scenarios and also some trick plays. So they've got to stay disciplined, they've got to stay in their lanes, and they've got to stay on the receivers to avoid the big play that Spurrier is known to consistently get against Kentucky. So now let's flip the coin here and let's talk about the Kentucky offense versus the South Carolina defense. South Carolina's defense, especially their secondary, has been pretty porous this year. So the Kentucky receivers will have opportunities to be open to make plays down the field. Patrick Towles needs to be accurate. The running backs of Braylon Hurd and JoJo Kemp need to keep pressure on the Florida front seven in order to open up those lanes for the receivers. That said, on Monday when the lines broke, South Carolina was a 10-point favorite. That line has now been bet down to 5. So South Carolina is still a 5-point favorite over the Cats in Lexington. I'm taking the Cats plus 5, and I'm taking the Cats to win outright against the Gamecocks, getting a huge victory, 37-34. With that victory, that would put Kentucky in charge of their own destiny in regards to the SEC East. When have we talked about Kentucky being in charge of their own destiny in the SEC East since 2007? We haven't, and especially this late in the season. Kentucky at 3-1 right now with a win over South Carolina would be 4-1, and if Tennessee does what I think they will to Florida, that will put Kentucky in the driver's seat for the SEC East, even over Georgia, especially because if we beat Georgia, which that game is in Lexington this year, I mean, again, they're right there at a chance to go to the SEC championship game. Well, that's all that we have for now. Thanks for watching. Again, my name is David Jarvis. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back next week with another video. And if you're going to the game, wear black. It's a blackout. We're gonna create an amazing atmosphere. It's 7:30 kickoff, so you got Keeneland during the day, you got the game at night. It's gonna be a fantastic atmosphere and definitely an experience that you'll want to be there for. So if you don't have tickets already, try to get them. There's still some left, not very many though. It's going to be a packed house. So have a great weekend and let's go Cats.